selection of boss, or how will you recruit a boss? Is it good to recruit a boss on a democratic process, right? It is like a team selects their own boss, or you create a criteria. Team creates a criteria and you evaluate based on the criteria and select your boss. I'll give an example. We have a tradition, right? When the dean is selected, dean is one out of the faculty who is appointed as a academic dean, and that person is selected internally among us, and that person is identified always through a democratic process. So there is a typical almost like a voting, and where everybody have to give 2 or 3 names, and through that they evaluate, they and identify a person where majority of them wanted him to be their dean, right? So it is a pure democratic process. And but of course they don't give you the criteria to select. And what if the faculty body is allowed to create a criteria and you apply that criteria to select their own boss? So how much it is possible? Okay. So when experience wise, if you look at what happens when you make a choice, we make a choice based on how that particular person, not by us, particular person was with us and how he behaved so long and all that. But post selection, the person changes. Right? Something is there in that position, right? So in 2-3 cases, we were terribly disappointed once he gets selected. But still we go through that process, right? With a hope that someday we will get a person who reflects what he was before, even after becoming a boss. Yeah. So how do we go about? Is it a good process? Why somebody above the boss should create a criteria of selection for him? Why not a team below him or team which works for him puts a criteria to select him, or given a choice to select the boss?
I think I have a point of view on that. So that's a function of the team itself in terms of what does the team do, what are the constituents of the team, what are the dynamics of the team, the value system of the team itself, right? I mean, it can't be applied holistically across the organization. But let's say I run a team of data scientists and data engineers, right? And we have tried to put a named person individual as running that team, and it didn't work, because I think that, like you said, that if I am deciding and that team is expected to come out with cutting edge, more innovation, and they need to be given more empowerment, so they are not to be dictated by the guardrails. Obviously there are finer guardrails, but they have to be more consensus based. They have to be given more freedom. They should not identify themselves with an individual personality, but they should bring their individual personalities onto a team. So what we did, we just made it more democratic, that we have a rotation system. Every 2 months we change the leader of the team.
No, but when you go on rotation, the guy who sits there may not be liked by all, right? Or
so I think, and that's wherein I think the strategic decisions, this is how you then demarcate between the strategic and the tactical decision making. The strategic decision is just cascade down. So that person of authority just need to make sure that whatever the team is doing, the projects and the kind of initiative they are taking is aligned to the overall strategy of the entire business unit. But they are within their team, they are free to decide the resourcing, they are free to decide their priorities, they are free to decide the work schedules, everything else. More at a tactical
That's like
level.
a team representative type. He's not a leader per se.
Yeah.
He's like a grade rep is there in a school. He's like a voice of the team, a voice of the
Correct.
grade
That's
in a way,
what
right?
I'm
In a
saying.
way.
That it might work at a very micro level, a team of teams kind of a setup, but we have not tried at an organization level at all.
But that's not a leader per se. I look for a leader who can inspire, create the broader vision, strategy, plus come with all the other things which we talked about. When a team is selecting, probably they are seeing it from a narrow their lens. So they're not looking at, of course, from the, so that process limits the ability.
but is it not someone who selects him from the top can also have all those bias?
No, but at least bringing the vision somewhere. When you're looking for a leader is supposed to not only sum of the parts.
No, my boss is selected by someone, right? How do we know that the person who's selecting the boss is not biased?
No, I'm not talking about the bias. I'm talking about when as a leader I'm
There
looking,
can be selection error there also, right?
of course, selection error could be there. But the point is, how do you select? Selection is not based on whether it's not a popularity contest, whether team is liking it or not. It's a matter of who can take the team and the organization forward. What is the vision? What is the strategy? How do you hire? Who do you hire? It's number of things. Who is in the right place to select? That's why a board is selecting a CEO. Then CEO is selecting his or her team. That's how the process works. Error can very well happen. They happen all the time. But probably they are able to bring in the what is there to take the organization forward.
When error happens, the acts also fall on the top
So
itself.
just 1 minute. Are you mean to say that from when it comes from top to down, bias is less, and when it
I'm
goes
not talking about the
from
bias at all. I'm talking about the natural process of a CEO is selected by the board versus a CEO selected by the organization. I think very naturally, the stakeholders are selecting the CEO who can run the company because that CEO is expected to bring in a lot of other qualities beyond running the team, right?
Right. The board also, ultimately, you expect the selector, whoever it is, to be able to take everybody's viewpoint into account. So, to your example, and again, we have the same process, right? I mean, in a partnership firm, it works very much like this, right? So, partners vote a leader, right? That is how it works. However, the ability, and I've seen now two different processes in firms. In the second firm, there is a process where there is a committee that sort of takes in input and goes speaks to every partner of saying, but post the input, there is a doubt of saying that, so there is, yes, the team needs to be heard, but does the team need to select? I think that's the
So I think I call it notion of democracy. So I'll give you this example. Last year, my son was a school president at grade 10. And just before the election, because it's a democratic process, he's at the best in the school with every teacher, every professor. I said, kya kar rahe ho? Why you have to spend so much of time with them? He said, no, because president ka election. मैंने कहा, but वो तो election है, student select करेंगे. बोले, आप लोग को ऐसा लगता है. So we have a weightage system. All the student body would vote and all teachers would also vote. We don't know the internal weightage system. They will change the weightage this year for teachers vote to have a higher weightage, and finally the selection would be happening of what teachers wanted. So I have to be popular to the student, but I have to be as good as this, right? So it's a balance. So I think, so look, corporations are autocratic by nature. They are not democratic. Democratic corporations would never grow at fast pace, and we have for-profit organization. So autocracy actually brings discipline, brings purpose, but you have to give a notion of people that we have selected somebody you like. So yeah, so I think you have to have a notion of that we have put a people. That's why nowadays what is done when there is succession planning happens, the person who is to succeed is shadowed for 1 year with the CEO. He goes around, talk nice, be good with people. So when he comes with authority, he's more accepted. But once, if you leave the choice to people, ki boss aap, select kar lijiye, then it doesn't work that way because it will just create chaos. Again, that's a perception. So for example, in India, politics is my favorite subject. But there is a perception that people choose the leader. Leader is pre-decided. It was in the time of Indira Gandhi. It was all through our set of democracy. Leader is pre-decided. And obviously, you're voting for him, but you're voting for an individual. And democracy is very, the democracy is very different versus corporations. It doesn't need to carry on everyone. People feel, because you remember this, people don't have choice to leave the country. Employees have a choice to leave the company. They don't like their bosses. It would be visible very soon. In 1 year time, your employee turnover would go up if the leader is abrasive, is not liked by the people. So I think so. No, of course not. Organization won't function and run.